Another thing I would say about this particular location and Gateway Community Services is that it's not just a Somali Medicaid fraud, it's a Somali Democrat Medicaid fraud, because this is an organization with elaborate and extensive ties to the Maine Democratic Party, including Governor Janet Mills and her administration.
Scene for Zhao on Capitol Hill, where lawmakers were once again digging into allegations of fraud in Minnesota. The conservative social media influencer whose video went viral testified while Democrats asked why so many other types of fraud are being ignored. Allegations of widespread fraud across Minnesota, now a top priority in Washington for Republicans in Congress.
Fraud within these programs have involved false claims, fictitious providers, and services not rendered.
Minnesota fraud has been investigated for years, both at the state and federal level. Top officials estimating $9 billion may have been lost. But fraud, particularly allegations of fraud committed by members of the Somali community, has re-emerged following a series of viral videos from conservative social media influencer Nick Shirley.
You can't defend the fraud.
In which he questioned whether taxpayer-funded daycare centers, healthcare companies, and transport businesses were actually operating.
Since my reporting, the HHS department froze over $185 million, and to this day, not a single business has been able to prove proof of legitimacy.
Some blaming the government for allowing the fraud to flourish for years, resulting in funding cuts for all, including the Holland Autism Center, which has provided legitimate care for 2 decades.
Organized criminal networks that exploited autism services by opening fake centers, billing for children that did not exist, billing for services never delivered, and stealing millions of taxpayer dollars in the process.
This was the second hearing on Minnesota fraud this month, and Democrats repeatedly asked why Republicans were ignoring why President Trump pardoned many people convicted of massive amounts of fraud and only wanted to focus on social programs that helped low-income Americans.
The Trump administration does not want you to trust these programs because if you don't trust them, they're easier to destroy them.
A major focus for Congress. Why, when fraud was reported, investigations were often squashed.
You made some recommendations.
Yes.
And then what happened?
Nothing.
They ignored your recommendations, but it didn't stop there, did it? They ignored your recommendations. They called you a racist, right?
Correct.
Well, Patriots, here we go again. I said I was going to bring you another video on what's going on with all these Somalians committing fraud. Well, here it is. This one's going to be focused on Maine. So once again, this is going to be a long one. Stay with me to the end. And just a fair warning, this one's definitely going to piss you off. Here we go.
Yeah, we're here in Maine, but this story is eerily reminiscent of the scandal that's evolving in Minnesota. We spoke with a whistleblower who alleges that millions have been built from the state here, from taxpayers and the Medicaid system, and that a Somali American-led health services contractor is at the center of it all.
I thought that we were doing the right thing.
Oh, just a quick context, people, real quick. This video clip came out a month ago, but we're going to catch up with what's been going on up to date, as a matter of fact. So I just wanted to play this one real quick, and then we're going to go in a better timeline from a month ago, 2 weeks ago, 3 days ago, and so on. Here we go.
This whole time. And the more I started digging, the more I started finding. And I just couldn't believe what I was seeing, that this was happening and that I was part of this.
Chris Bernardini spent 7 years working for Gateway Community Services, a Somali American-led health services contractor in Maine. Bernardini alleges Gateway oversaw a system in which false records were filed about client visits. And he says they charged taxpayers for providing services that were never performed.
We started getting some clients calling and saying, months later that their client owed them hours. They hadn't come in for these shifts and stuff. But I had a time card for it.
And they were billing for it.
They were billing for it.
In March of 2022, Gateway received a notice of violation from the state's Maine Care Services Program Integrity Unit based on an audit of records taken at random from January 2017 through December of 2018. Gateway overbilled by an estimated $904,000.
In your professional opinion, what you saw was fraud?
Absolute.
No doubt about it.
No doubt about it.
But
Okay, in case anybody is asking questions, and I know you're all asking the same questions because I did, but I mean, I pretty much realized what the answer could be. If you're noticing a pattern of a lot of these healthcare and daycare facilities and all that are all being investigated, and they're all being basically told you're not allowed to proceed or you're not going to get any funding, people keep asking, well, how do they keep getting the funding? And this is where the Democrats come in. So I'm not trying to lead anybody astray with the title, because you're going to find out what's going on. The Democrats, what they basically do, and this is why they had such a big problem with President Trump and Elon Musk starting Doge. Okay, the was it Department of Government, whatever it was. Anyway, you guys know what I'm talking about. It's because what the Democrats like to do, every time a bill has to pass through Congress, they always like to add pork, meaning just frivolous programs to allocate money into those bills. So the way they funnel that kind of money back into these states is by things that are hidden, okay, or basically titled under the guise of something else, and that funding winds up being dispersed and it goes into these programs. Okay, so it's basically just a big money laundering scam that the Democrats have. They don't have their hands in the cookie jar. I mean, they are elbows deep into this. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm pretty sure that there are some traitorous Republicans out there. I mean, we all know that are doing the same thing, but that's basically what the answer is. Where they getting the money, and if anybody has been noticing in the past 5 years, well, somewhat it's still going on because it's being investigated now, but under Biden's regime, okay, all this money that was going out, from the PPP loans to the unemployment, to illegals getting all kinds of social services, which all you Democrats keep saying they can't. Yet we know that they can't. They're not allowed to, but they've been getting it, and you know this to be facts. Okay, from welfare, food stamps, whatever the case is, housing. We're talking in the hundreds of billions of dollars that has been basically stolen from the American taxpayer and just given out to people that, in all honesty, whether you're an illegal immigrant or an American, if you didn't deserve it, you didn't deserve it, but they gave it out. They gave it to them. Okay? But it just seems, for some odd reason, and I was having a problem with trying to use AI to get more information, because for some odd reason, all of a sudden AI is saying that they cannot touch on certain ethnic groups. But here's the problem with that. That the ethnic group in question is the Somali community. It doesn't matter if it's in Maine, Minnesota, California. It just seems that it is Somali-wide, for lack of a better term. Okay? And not to mention, this is nothing new. It's been going on for at least the past 10, 15 years. I mean, I did some research, and it just seems like the only immigrant ethnic group in this country, okay, that is like basically ranking when it comes to collecting social services is, number one, the Muslim community. And it just seems to stem first that they were saying it was towards the Afghanistan or Pakistan community, but the more that's being uncovered, it seems like it's more in the Muslim Somali community. Okay, either way, it's still in the community of the Muslims that are collecting so much from American taxpayers, but yet these people want to come here and destroy America. They don't want to pay any allegiance to America because they believe in their own culture. And you people already know how I feel, okay? I believe that we need to start building some giant slingshots and just start slingshotting people back over the border, back to their countries, because they don't love America. They love the money. When they're ready to be picked up and deported, all of a sudden they want to be considered Americans. I mean, you even have them coming out saying that, oh, now that why is it that the black community is not supporting them? Well, you never thought you were black. You never thought you was part of the American black community. But now all of a sudden you want the American black community, who has been under thumb, okay, and vilified by their own political leaders, the Democrat Party. Now you want them to help you? That's not going to happen. Okay, basically you can go kick rocks. And the more and more that I see, it truly upsets me. And anybody that knows me, knows my channel, they know I'm not racist, but it's getting to the point that, you know what, I am so fed up with the Muslim community and the Somali. It doesn't matter if you're Somalian, and I don't even care if you're an American Muslim. I am so fed up with the Muslim community because you people just want to everywhere you go, you want to destroy it. Okay, and you eat up the minds of other people thinking that, oh, that you're the victims. You're not the victims. You're all a bunch of crooks. That's why they consider people from the Somali community to be a bunch of pirates. Okay. Now, this man was talking about this, and this was a while ago. This came out a month ago. Let's move forward so like that you guys can see what's going on and what's going on with the investigations. And this is why I said this is going to be a long one, so I want everybody to stick with me, okay? We got to try to break this algorithm, and I'm sick and tired of trying to fight this algorithm, you know, with keywords and tags and descriptions, whatever. All I can do is just basically put out my opinion, put out the information, and hopefully people can see through the thumbnails and the titles and want to click on it. But if you can pass these videos along, please do. If the algorithm is not going to push my content, I'm depending on you people out there to push it out, especially all you people that are fed up in Minnesota and Maine, all around the United States. If you're fed up with it, please watch this video, copy and paste the the link, and put it on your social media. Okay, because this affects all of us, and it should really upset all you Americans that are paying taxes, because tax season is here. Okay, and if President Trump said he's going to make it better for us taxpayers, which is great, and I know he means it, because the first time around I seen a big difference when I was getting my taxes as opposed to when Biden took over the White House. But at the same time, there are people out there that are not going to get a fair break when they do their taxes, and it should really upset everyone. Because why should all the illegal immigrants, especially in the Somali community, take our taxpayer money to do whatever they want, and yet at the same time badmouth America and Americans? Okay, so with all that being said, let's get to the next video clip. And again, there's one more, another one that I want to incorporate in this that should really piss off the people in Maine. And if it doesn't piss you off, then you know what? You're on your own. Here we go.
Thank you. I am Senator Matt Harrington, Assistant Senate Republican Leader here at the State House. Starting back in May, the Maine Wire first broke the story detailing allegations of serious Medicaid fraud by Gateway Community Services, and then I publicly called on the Mills administration to launch an immediate investigation. At the time, the reporting raised serious red flags, patterns of overbilling, and questionable practices. In recent weeks, we've seen massive welfare fraud scandal break out in Minnesota, and the fraud here in Maine has disturbing similarities to that in Minnesota. 7 months later, we are finally seeing some action with the suspension of funding to Gateway. But let's be clear, this did not happen because of Democratic leadership or Governor Mills suddenly deciding to act. It happened because the story would not go away. It happened because the national media continued to dig, and it happened because the federal government is now paying attention.
Exactly.
Despite taking months for the Maine media to cover this story, we all knew this fraud was real and happening. Finally, after national media shined a light on it, Maine media is playing catch up. Despite all of this, what remains most striking is the complete silence from Maine Democrats. Where is Governor Mills? Where is Speaker Fecteau? Where is President Daughtry? Where is the Attorney General? Where is Matt Dunlap? These are not minor questions. These are people who...
You know what's funny that he mentions all those titles? It's reminiscent of New York, okay? Where you got the governor, the mayor, the attorney general, the district attorney, whatever you want to call it. I mean, you got all these people working in cahoots, and what are they? They're all Democrats, okay? And it all started with Eric Adams. He's not being let off the hook. Let's not talk about Mamdani at the moment. We'll leave that alone. But it all started with Eric Adams, okay, and his little speech out there, you know, talking about that New York was for everyone, that New York embraces the illegal immigrant community. But who was behind it? The same thing. The governor, him, district attorney, judges, and it just goes on and on and on. The same thing is going on in California. As a matter of fact, Nick Shirley was out in Capitol Hill in front of Congress, and the fraud is way bigger in California, to the tunes of tens of billions of dollars, not just 9 billion or up to 18 billion like in Minnesota. No, they're talking tens of billions of dollars, and it goes into different, the money was being basically laundered in a way where they said it was supposed to be for certain programs, one of them being to help the homeless. That came out to what they say at this moment, $24 billion. So it's like all these Democrats, they come into power and they take all this money from everyone, not only from their constituents, but also from people that vote against them, because they're all living in the same state. And they basically go and they just launder it into different programs, and it all ends up being the same. Democrats, Democrats, Democrats. Okay? Are there a few Republicans, do I believe? Yeah, but they're not real Republicans. Okay? In my opinion, they're just traitors, just like the Democrats. Why is it that it's like that? I mean, look at what just happened in Virginia. Okay? They wind up getting a Democrat governor. One of the things that's on some of the bills that's being pushed out, okay, not trying to go off topic here from Maine, but one of the things that they're trying to have her pass, and something tells me she's going to pass, is to get rid of gas-powered leaf blowers. They're already starting out in Virginia with that. They're already starting with this blue toxic agenda. And people say, well, I mean, it's up to her to pass it just because it's coming across the table, across her desk. It doesn't mean she's going to pass it. Of course it does. You know that's what's going to happen. The same thing goes in Florida. Okay? They just got another Democrat to run Miami. When are you people in Florida going to learn? Well, here's the thing. I'm not even going to blame all the people in Florida, because for the most part, Florida is beat red. But here's the problem: when you have so many illegals flocking to red states, and you got all these people coming from the blue states moving to the red states, and all of a sudden they wind up voting someone in. And this is why I tell everyone, pay attention to the small elections. Pay attention to the small votes. Because this is the part of the Democrat playbook. Okay? Indoctrinate these people. It doesn't matter who they are. Make it hard for them to live. And they're so damn brainwashed that they're going to wind up moving to a red state because it's cheaper, but they're still going to bring their blue agenda with them. And of course, you're going to have your implants. I truly believe that. Okay? But it's always the Democrats that no matter where they go, no matter what policies they pass, it does not benefit their own constituents or Americans. It only benefits their agenda. And that is to be just a bunch of traitorous, treasonous people that want to destroy this country. And they're using illegal immigrants to help them achieve that.
Serve Mainers and are responsible for protecting the taxpayer, and their silence is absolutely deafening. Here are the facts. A company whose CEO reportedly spent time traveling to Somalia and running for president there and organizing a privately funded militia, all while his organization was overbilling programs funded by Maine taxpayers. Where is the...
Doesn't that sound familiar? Wasn't there, and maybe I got it, I'm getting them both confused, but I do believe that there was another instance of someone in Minnesota doing the same thing, and I did a video on it. Now, unless he's talking about someone else, that makes two people in the Somalian community, one in Minnesota, one in Mayor, who was taking American taxpayer money, and they decided to go back to Somalia and try to run for political office there, while the whole time are supposed to be American citizens here, but they're showing their allegiance to another country. How, and I'm not saying that the President Trump and the Department of Justice are not investigating this, but this one right here should be a no-brainer, even to the Democrats who don't care, because in my opinion they're part of it. But this should be a no-brainer to Democrat Americans. Are you truly okay with somebody in this country going to another country running for political office? And if the answer to that is yes, then you are part of the problem. The answer should be no, especially when you people on the left are always talking about that Americans should not be engaging in the political affairs of other countries. But you mean to tell me that this does not upset you? This does not make you come out and say, wait a minute, we can't have that. This doesn't raise any red flags that there are people coming from other countries basically embedding themselves in our society, taking our money just so they can run for political office in their home country. That shows you their allegiance. They are not Americans. These people, it should not even be an investigation that should last months. Once the proof is there, they should be arrested and they should be kicked out of the country permanently. And this should not be a one-sided issue. Both sides should agree to this. Why it's taking so long and why all this has not been investigated a long time ago, it's because, like I said, when it comes to the Democrats, they're just part of the corruption.
Outrage from Maine Democrats. Where are the press conferences? Where are the calls for accountability?
I'm sorry, let me go back just a little bit.
Where is the outrage from Maine Democrats? Where are the press conferences? Where are the calls for accountability?
Where are the protests?
I believe what we have uncovered so far is only scratching the surface of fraud here in Maine. Why was Gateway Community Services, a company that had already received multiple notices of overbilling, allowed to sit on a steering committee to receive funding tied to the Lewiston Shooting Victims Fund?
And this is the part that should piss you off. Sorry for using it. I'm trying to keep this video from being checked for monetization. So that's like the third time in this video I use that term. I'm trying not to. But I have another video that's gonna explain more about that. And this is what I said on 2 videos ago, I believe, about money being allocated from a victims fund for a shooting in Maine, and the money was being transferred to the Somali community in Minnesota. That money has nothing to do for illegal immigrants, nothing to do with them. This is money that was collected. It was supposed to be given to victims of a mass shooting. And this is what I'm saying, that the Democrats, there is no way you're going to tell me that they didn't know about this. There is no way that this one particular instance went under the radar, because that is a total separate entity, a total separate allocation of funds. That has nothing to do with finding funding to give to illegal immigrants, to give to any community for that matter. Who signed off on that? How were they able to get away with taking that money and giving it to a totally different program? This is corruption at its finest.
How does a provider under scrutiny for billing abuses end up receiving money that were dedicated to helping families and survivors of one of the most tragic events in Maine history? When you begin to look at how interwoven Gateway is with Maine Democrats, the silence starts to make a whole lot more sense. The Democratic National Committee man for Maine and former Chief of Staff to Senate President Troy Jackson, B.J. McAllister, serves on the board of Community Organizing Alliance, an affiliated group of Gateway. That information was publicly available on their website until just recently that page was magically taken down.
Of course.
Representative Decker DeLocke, who previously worked in a leadership role at Gateway, now sits on the Appropriations Committee, the very committee responsible for overseeing how our tax dollars are spent. These are not coincidences, they are conflicts that demand scrutiny. Frankly, I do not believe we will see a fully transparent investigation carried out by anyone here in state government. Political entanglements are too deep and incentives to look the other way are too strong. Fortunately, this matter has now drawn attention of the U.S. House Oversight Committee. Congressman James Comer has launched a federal investigation and has requested bank records connected to Gateway and related entities. That is a serious step and underscores how serious these allegations are. We are calling on Governor's Office staff, DHHS staff, state auditor, Democrats in the legislature, and all state agencies to fully cooperate with federal investigators examining fraud here in Maine. That means making documents available, that means answering questions, that means ending any effort to obstruct or delay the truth. Contrary to Attorney General Fry's secret directive to DHHS to avoid cooperating with the Justice Department, the scope of this alleged fraud demands the opposite approach. Maine taxpayers deserve transparency. Earlier when I said I believe Gateway is just scratching the surface, here's what I mean. From 2019 to 2024, Maine had 5,113 different companies billing Maine Care. That's 5,113 different companies, not different claims. But at the same time, we only had 22 employees working on fraud at DHHS.
Can you believe that, people? Over 5,000 companies and only 22 people investigating, and you people on the left are gonna tell me that this is a political witch hunt, that there's nothing to see here, that it's a nothing burger, whichever phrase you want to use. You're gonna tell me, okay, that in a blue state way up north that is run by nothing but Democrats, people on your side, that they didn't have enough, that they let all these companies open up and nothing would raise a red flag on this. Nothing. You know, 10 companies pop up in the state, that's one thing. Maybe, let's go even up to 100. Let's just leave it at that. Leave it at that. But when they hit 500, 1,000, 1,500, 2,000, I mean, it goes on and on to over 5,000. Didn't anybody come out and say, wait a minute, where are all these companies popping up from? Who's in charge? Where are they getting the money from? Because it's not that hard to put all that together to start figuring out, okay, who are all these owners opening up all these people? And if it's just one specific community, you don't investigate that? I'm sorry. I am totally sorry. But in the history of this country, and I dare anybody to fact check me on this, in the history of this country, I've never heard, nor have I ever seen information of one specific immigrant community that was so loving and giving to want to open up all these programs, all these facilities to help out America. Not the Irish, not the Italian, not the Jewish, not the Greek, not the Hispanic. I mean, it goes on and on and on. And I'm not saying that it's never happened like in the whole history of the 250 years. I'm saying for one community to come out in such a short period of time, to come out and open up all these programs, all these companies, all for the betterment of America, that will raise a red flag. That in itself, even before technology, the way technology has hit America, would want anybody to say, wait a minute, what is the what's the special interest with, let's just say, so-and-so community, that all of a sudden they want to open up all these programs in America, and they're just recently coming into America? That's a red flag. Okay? You mean to tell me that nobody in Maine wanted to investigate this? That nobody in Maine saw this as a red flag, as a problem, to say, wait a minute. I mean, yeah, maybe some of them want to come here and be part of America, the American dream. But it just seems more like these things keep popping up. I would think there's some sort of fraud going on that is popping up so much. Okay? And it doesn't bother you people on the left. This is not entirely directed to anybody on the right, because I know where we stand. This whole video, all this information is basically directed to you people on the left. Okay? You know, it's easy to find out who the drug dealers are in the neighborhood. First you have one, you don't pay attention. Then you have two, you're like, well, you know what, we're going to take care of it because, you know, we can't have this in our community. But when they start popping up 10, 15, 20, there's one on every corner. Then you got to start saying, no, this is not somebody trying to sell drugs. We have a drug epidemic now. We have a drug problem. Nobody thought to think that out of these programs there was a healthcare fraud problem going on, or whatever the case is, daycare, healthcare, Medicaid. No, to them it was just like, no, they're just here trying to help out Americans. No, they're not, because especially when you look at the vast majority of the people that they were helping, it was within their own community. Okay, there is no videotape. There are no records of people, and this is another thing. Okay, we're gonna move on, but like I said, I gotta put my all into this. It's gonna be a long video, so stay with me, okay? You know, when you look at certain, let's say certain companies, let's just take Home Depot for instance, okay? Let's say Home Depot is under some sort of scandal, and they want to find out information. Oh, you know, there's racism scandals going on at Home Depot. Whoever's doing an investigation, they are going to find old media records and video and audio and all that from Home Depot and try to put a montage together to show from 20 years ago to now what Home Depot is all about. Okay, if you guys are understanding where I'm going with this. Why is it with all these scandals that are going on, all these Somalian owned companies that are being investigated, where is all that footage of all these companies that have been open for the past 10, 15 years? Where they can show records, not only just on paper, but audio, video, people in the community that will come out and say, well, you know, they helped me. Has anybody noticed in a lot of these videos where they're investigating, you don't see people from the community that are other than Somalians? And I mean other ethnic groups. Hasn't anybody noticed that there is nobody out there speaking for these organizations, for these programs, saying, well, they helped me? You don't see no white Karens out there saying it. You don't see American black people saying it. You don't see Hispanics or Asians. You don't see anybody, okay, standing up and saying, well, they helped me get out of bankruptcy, help me pay my rent, help me with my car insurance. You don't see anybody out there. No one. Other than the people in the Somali community complaining that they're being investigated, saying that it's racially targeted, and all you see is protests of other people from different ethnic backgrounds protesting, in other words, so nobody can get investigated, because that's what it basically is. But ask yourself that question, you people on the left. Where are all the people, other than Somalians and Muslims, that they have helped? Where's your stories? Where are they? They're not out there. You know why? Because they weren't out there trying to help out other Americans. They're not out there trying to help out Americans, period. They're only out there trying to help out their own, which is the Muslim community.
That's not just main care fraud that they work on. That's TANF, SNAP, WIC, all other programs, and potential cases of fraud. 22 employees to look at fraud among millions of claims submitted by over 5,000 companies. All told, MAID spent $1.2 million on fraud investigations at DHHS in the year 2024. And to put that in perspective, Gateway Community Services billed $4.1 million during that same time period. This means Maine fraud investigators could spend about 9 hours for every company that is billing Maine Care.
Wow.
That doesn't include the thousands of companies billing SNAP, EBT, or WIC, or other programs, which they have to cover as well.
Yep.
That's just Maine Care. From 2019 to 2024, there were 918 new companies that started billing Medicaid, or roughly 40 for each fraud investigator. Companies are being created faster than they can possibly be validated because we've made it too easy to bill Maine Care.
Yep.
The electronic visit verification system should not allow supervisors and bosses to have root access because this allows Medicaid bills to be created from thin air. In trying to make Medicaid fraud less likely, we've made it easier than posting to Facebook. EVV must be fixed and all EVV claims must be audited. Personal support services must be radically altered as well. We all want grandma to get help around the house or getting groceries, but PSS has become a free-for-all scam that allows bad actors to profit at the expense of hardworking Maine taxpayers.
And I'll leave it at that because the videos, I mean, it's only another minute. But, I mean, you see what I'm saying? It has nothing to do with helping out the people that really need it. But yet you got homeless vets out on the street. Okay, you have people out there, families, that have been struggling for years. And the Democrats keep wanting everybody's vote, but they don't help. Okay, look at the billions of dollars in fraud just in California alone. And money that was supposed to be allocated to help out the homeless. And they have, from all records are saying they have the biggest homeless population problem, and it's in California. But yet they've used up supposedly $24 billion, if that's even the real number, that was supposed to go to helping out the homeless, and nothing. They're still out there. Okay? As a matter of fact, if you're homeless, as you can go to California, doesn't matter what state you're from. You can go out to California. You can just go out there saying that you're homeless. Right off the bat, I believe, because I wound up talking to somebody that was out in California. Okay? Yes, I do my own little investigation on the side. I know how to listen to people and say, you know what, and just start asking questions. I don't have to mention names and nothing like that. But that one particular person told me that as soon they stayed there for a month, okay, they were supposed to go to rehab, but as soon as they got there, they gave them food stamps and $1,000. That's how easy it was. And that person was from Florida. And he was only supposed to go out there just for rehab. Okay? Lo and behold, he got the money. He got the food stamps. Did he get better? No. He basically wound up coming back. He said, because it's worse out there to try to go to rehab because there's so much drugs out there that there's no such thing as like real rehab out there. So he came back to Florida. This is how easy it is in these blue states for people to just run frauds and to basically keep people down. The Democrats, this is why I keep saying, the Democrats do not care. They talk so much about where's the humanity, we're here for the people. They do not care about human beings. They only care about their power and their wealth. That's all they care about. Let's get to the next video clip. Here we go.
So here's the thing about that massive welfare services fraud that has embroiled Minnesota in scandal. If it was so widespread, you can assume it didn't take a criminal mastermind to pull it off. And if ripping off the government was relatively easy, why wouldn't other scammers in other states be up to the same thing? Well, it looks like they might have been. Tonight, News Nation is turning its attention back to Maine, where locals are blowing the whistle on businesses that look, well, let's use the word questionable. The accusations revolve around alleged shell home health care companies that collect overpayments from the government. An audit found one such business, Gateway Community Services, was overpaid by more than $1 million. Now authorities want to know what's been going on. Just last week, Governor Janet Mills said she takes the misuse of taxpayer dollars seriously and supports a full investigation.
Yeah, okay.
News Nation correspondent Rich McHugh has been following the paper trail, investigating the allegations all over the state. His reporting has already garnered national attention. Rich, you're back in Maine. What are you finding?
Well, it's the same thing that we're finding in Minnesota, just to be completely blunt, Elizabeth. The same tactics being used to defraud Medicaid. In this case, zombie houses, zombie offices, I call them, where large clusters of home health care businesses and providers in one location. We saw them in Minnesota, and we're seeing them here, and the business owners and building owners that we speak to here say enough. We're here in Portland, Maine. We found of the businesses that are registered in here, of the 20-something businesses, 10 of them are home health care businesses. As you can see, Prestige Home Care, Bright Star Home Care, Atlantic Community Support, 5 Stars Home Health Care, Prime Home Care, LLC. It's a trend.
I mean, this is just ridiculous, people. I mean, come on, let's just be realistic here, man. I mean, it's exhausting, you know, that all this is coming up, and yet, and just so you guys know, the #1 news source that is really covering, that's uncovering all this and really investigating is News Nation. Fox is doing something, forget about mainstream media. You already know MSNBC and the rest of them, they're not going to be looking into this. But News Nation is the one that's really been on this. And it's like, how come this is not getting more coverage? Where are all the protests? You people protest so much. You go out there and you protest because you want transgender health care for people, but when you don't get it, you complain, but you're not complaining about, oh, wait a minute, these people are out here running a scam. Most of them are not even from this country, and there's no protest from you. I mean, it's infuriating.
We saw in Minnesota, one that the Minnesota House Oversight Committee on Fraud tells News Nation is a giant red flag. Large clusters of healthcare providers in one location. This building right behind me has 22 different home and community-based healthcare companies registered in the building. Inside this Portland office building, owner Ron Nevins agreed to speak with us.
I think I got 10 healthcare companies, which is probably about half, maybe a little less than half of this building.
Healthcare, home healthcare. I didn't even know what home healthcare was.
Okay, you know what? Not for nothing, I'm going to jump on this building owner's, I'm going to jump on his case. Okay? If I own a building, okay, and I know what people are going to say, well, it doesn't matter, you own a building if there's going to be 10 law firms or there's going to be 5 restaurants, whatever. This is totally different. This is totally different. Okay? Because you have to look at it this way. You have certain entities that will go and occupy an office building and will use law firms as an example, because we see it everywhere. There'll be 2 or 3 different law firms, or maybe even like, let's say, chiropractors. I've seen that before, like multiple chiropractors, and like in a mini mall, like in the same building or whatever the case is. But when you know for a fact in the state that you're in is not a big state, Maine's not a big state, okay? We all know this. When you start seeing entities popping up in the same area, providing the same service, that should make you wonder. That should make you be like, well, wait a minute. Why all of a sudden are we getting such a big boom in the healthcare industry? And me as a property owner, I will start asking questions like that. Because people, this is no secret that when it comes to the medical field, there is tons and tons of fraud going on. This is not new. This is not, it's just that this is being uncovered in this particular case. But when it comes to the whole of healthcare, the healthcare industry, fraud is rampant. And this has been going on for decades. Me as a property owner, I will question that. Do I really want all these health facilities opening up shop in my buildings? And especially when I don't see anyone, I don't see any owners, I don't see any patients, I don't see anybody working in these facilities. There's no way you can be this daft to say, well, I don't even know what healthcare means. Really? I don't know what home healthcare means. Come on, man. You're not going to get away with that, especially a man at your age. You're in your 50s, maybe your early 60s. There's no way you're going to tell me you don't know what home healthcare means. Come on.
Do you think these businesses are actually legit businesses?
Some, yes, but some I highly question. Nobody's ever here, and if it was 1 or 2 or 3 or 4, but when there's 10, I've had as many as 12 or 13 probably before. The 5-star, I took the sign off the door because I'm trying to rent the office.
A state audit found that 5-star home healthcare overbilled Maine's Medicaid by nearly $400,000, according to documents obtained by the Maine Wire. They failed to provide documentation to substantiate hundreds of thousands of dollars in Medicaid benefits paid out for home-based health care, and then the owner just abandoned the office.
I can't even reach him. 6 months. No return calls, no return texts, nothing.
There's been no consequences, no investigation, no resolution to what happened with 5-Star's home health care. And that, I think, is something, that's a story that we see play out time and time again.
You've been reporting on this for quite a long time here in Maine. How widespread do you think this issue is here?
Hundreds of millions of dollars, easily. It's, you look at just where we're standing right now, there are probably a dozen home healthcare agencies registered here. We can see Ladna Home Healthcare down there. That's a $2 million home healthcare agency. You can see it's located right next to 2 money wiring services. Right next to it, you have Dahab Shield. The Dahab Shield is the official money wiring service of the Central Bank of Somalia.
You don't know what's going on behind the scenes,
Does it
Yeah, that raises no red flags. In the little city, in the little, part of Maine, okay, that you have people from Somalia coming in, and all of a sudden they open up a home healthcare facility, and right next to it they open up a money wire transfer facility that is directly linked to the main bank in Somalia. No, that doesn't raise any red flags. No, not at all. I mean, these are really people people from a Muslim nation that truly want to go into a place like Maine, a little state like Maine, and just start helping out Americans, because that's what it's all about. But yet, like I said, where are the people that can honestly come out and say, yes, that facility helped me? Where's the white person, the black person, the Puerto Rican person, the Chinese person? It doesn't matter. Where are those people? I don't want to hear about the Muslim community. I don't want to hear about Somalians. I don't want to hear about them. I'm talking about all the other Americans whose taxpayer money is going to funding these organizations. Where is your testimony saying that these programs, that these companies helped you? You won't find it, people. I haven't seen it. I haven't seen the troves of people out there saying, oh, this company helped me, that company helped me, why are you harassing them, they're doing good for the community. I haven't seen it. No, I've seen people protesting saying, stop picking on them, stop being racist, you're only doing it because you're racist. That's all you hear. That's it. That's all you hear. You don't actually see people out there saying, why are you attacking this company? They've been helping out the community. They've been helping us. Because their community doesn't involve real Americans. Their community only involves their people. And the majority of their people, if not all, are what? Muslim. Let's get to the story I wanted to play that's really going to upset you guys. Here we go.
Turning now to a News Nation exclusive, the Minnesota welfare fraud scandal that has torpedoed Governor Tim Walz's re-election campaign may not be the only one making headlines this week. A small community in Maine is calling for accountability tonight after they say money for mass shooting victims instead went to Somali-linked nonprofits.
And just one quick note, and we'll play this so I can end the video. This came out 2 weeks ago from News Nation. Okay, and I want to throw my own little rant on this before we continue. When it comes to places like Massachusetts, Maine, all the blue states, whatever the case is, whenever there's a mass shooting, the Democrats jump quickly on, we got to do something about gun control and whatever the case is, and yada yada yada, right? So now there was a mass shooting, and it wasn't recent. In case anybody doesn't know, go back and read up on the story. After the shooting, there was supposed to be a program set up to collect money to help out the victims, as you're going to hear, of people that were involved in this mass shooting. But now that money's being allocated, sent over to the Somali community in Minnesota, and not one Democrat has decided to go on the record and say this is wrong. You went on the record, you complain about gun violence, you complain about wanting to pass legislation on gun laws. So something like this happens, but you won't talk about or even question why was that money taken from these victims and given to the Somali community in Minnesota. And this is why I said in my title and in my thumbnail that the Somalians and the Democrats are in cahoots when it comes to all this.
You'll likely recall that in October 2023, 18 people were killed in Lewiston, Maine, when a U.S. Army reservist opened fire at a bowling alley and a bar and grill. In the wake of the shooting, a local nonprofit created a fund promising that 100% of the money would go to the victims. Generous donors gave millions of dollars, but a large chunk of that money did not go to victims. That's part of the outrage. Where it ended up is the other part. News Nation investigative correspondent Rich McHugh has been digging into this story and joins us live from Lewiston, Maine. Rich, what did you find?
Well, it's disturbing, Elizabeth. We're here in Lewiston, Maine, which experienced one of the worst mass shootings in our country's history. And in the wake of that, our country rallied behind this community and raised millions for the survivors and victims' families. Now, those families are crying foul because they say a large chunk of that money, nearly 30% of it, went not to them, but to 29 different nonprofits. And these families are demanding answers.
It's just terrifying. You can't even describe it.
Jennifer Zenka had been shot twice and didn't know if she'd make it.
As a nurse, my instinct just grab my arm and held it as tight as I could to keep myself from bleeding out.
18 were killed that day in Maine's deadliest mass shooting. The victims ranging in age from 14 to 76.
My nephew was killed in the shooting. He was my sister's only son, a middle child. He was the man of the family since he was 14 years old.
Amy Sussman's nephew, Max Hathaway, was a married dad of 2 with 1 on the way.
On that day, he had just received his college diploma in the mail, and he went out to Schmenge's to have dinner to celebrate receiving that diploma.
In the wake of the shooting, a local nonprofit, the Maine Community Foundation, established the Lewiston-Auburn Area Response Fund.
We all met in an auditorium in the school, and they told us that night that 100% of the funds would go to the victims. And then I received the email too to say that.
That email from the Maine Community Foundation says it is, quote, to help ensure survivors and victims know that 100% of all donations go to victims, survivors of this tragic event.
They kept telling me, if you have anyone who wants to give to this because it's 100% for the survivors and family members.
But a year later, Amy investigated and uncovered that a big chunk of the money raised, $1.9 million, went not to the victims, but to 29 different nonprofits.
Unbelievable.
9 of the 29 are for immigrants only, nonprofits that serve the immigrant community in Lewiston, Auburn-Lewiston area.
Okay, now this is where you have to question the people. What does one have to do with the other? This is why I say that this video is mostly directed to you people on the left, man. You people on the left will not open up your eyes to the corruption that is going on. You keep going on hearsay of corruption coming from the right, corruption coming from President Trump, and yada, yada, yada. It goes on and on and on. And once again, here are people that are showing the receipts of all the corruption. Actual proof that's coming from the left. And all you can do is go out there and give ICE agents a hard time in Minnesota because they're trying to pick up illegal, criminal, Somalians, Mexicans, whatever the case is. No, you'll fight against that. Where's your outrage for this? Where is the protest of the people in Maine? Where are you leftist groups going out there to Maine to protest on behalf of these people, on behalf of the victims over this corruption? Who in Maine was in charge that let this happen? Who in Maine was in charge of this particular organization that was supposed to collect this money, that was supposed to basically get a piece of paper, write down who the money was supposed to go to? How in the world did you have a list of the people that this money was supposed to go to rightfully, and all of a sudden your pen strayed and said, well, we're going to send this out to a different state, Minnesota, to a different community, to 29 different organizations, 9 of them being that it's going to be for illegal immigrants? Like, this should not be that hard to figure out. Okay? And listen, if there was any Republicans involved, then go after them too. I don't care. But it's like, how does something like this, something that has totally nothing at all to do with the other, where was that bridge made that 2 people, because it wasn't just one person that in Maine came out and said, well, you know what? And maybe it was somebody in Maine that said, well, you know what? I'm in charge of this. I'm going to go and send this money over here. Because if that's the case, then it should not be that hard to figure out who did it. But something tells me it came from both sides, and it came from higher ups that decided to get together and say, you know what? We're going to start taking this money. Who's going to know? Don't worry about it. We'll figure that out later. And it just keeps pointing to the same thing. Illegal immigration fraud and Democrats.
Groups like Empowered Immigrant Women Unite, Generation Noor, New Mainers Public Health Initiative, the Somali Bantu Community Association, and Gateway Community Services, which has been accused of misusing taxpayer funds and, after our reporting, was visited by Homeland Security. Gateway's executive director was on the fund's steering committee, and they received $65,000 from the fund.
It's unconscionable. I don't understand.
If 100% of the funds were supposed to go to the victims, that's not 100% of the funds. If this one particular person got $65,000 from the fund. See, this is what I'm saying, man. Wow, this is just incredible, man. It's just... And this is why there's this big rumor on the internet that so many people say they're not going to pay their taxes. That they're refusing to file their tax returns. People are fed up. People are fed up saying, you know what, I'm tired of paying taxes. I'm tired of filing for taxes. If we do not see the end result of where our tax money is going. And in all honesty, I don't blame them. I really don't. I don't think we should be paying taxes anyway, in all honesty. At least not the percentage that we have to pay. You want taxes out of my paycheck? You're welcome to 10%, and that's way too much. If you can't figure it out as a government what to do with my 10% of my taxes, then you're the one with the problem, not me. Okay? But leave it up to people that are in charge in the blue states or in the blue cities, because this happens also in blue cities that are in red states. One place, in my opinion, that I've seen firsthand, okay, case in point, is Little Rock, Arkansas. Even though Arkansas is red, Little Rock is run by the blue coats. And let me tell you something, Little Rock is not all that. Not saying that there's not good people in Little Rock. There are many good people in Little Rock, but they all say the same thing. Even the ones that are left-leaning say the same thing. That when it comes to taxes and corruption, Little Rock is ripe, especially for illegal immigration.
How you could look at this group of people and tell them that 100% of the money is going to them while you know you're raising money for nonprofits in that same fund.
A lot of them are local nonprofits. Somali Community in particular got a whole lot of money, and I don't know why.
Former Governor Paul LePage is demanding a complete audit and monies that went to the organizations be paid back. Jennifer, who received only $32,000, struggled to pay for her surgeries.
It didn't really hit me and really upset me until I was in a position with a $93,000 hospital bill that I couldn't cover.
Gateway Community Services,
Right.
they received a lot more money than you did.
It does kind of re-victimize, you know, where it just doesn't feel fair, doesn't feel right.
What do you think happened here?
They raised money for nonprofits on the backs of 18 people who were murdered, 13 people who were shot, and 136 people who escaped their attempted murder.
The Maine Community Foundation declined our request for an interview, but says they were clear from the outset that there were two different funds. And their, quote, communication to the recipients of the Victims and Families Fund regarding contributions referred to that fund only.
I'm furious, I'm steaming.
There should be no two different funds. It was only set up to be for one fund. See, this is what I'm saying about these Democrats and their corruption. Just like when they're trying to pass a bill in Congress, they always try to add something or put something to the side. In other words, read the fine print. If you don't read the fine print, hey, we all signed off on it. You agreed to it. No, I did. Well, it was in there. This is why they want to stack up. It's supposed to be like one bill to pass one law. So that should be what, maybe 3 or 4 pages long? No, when you come to get it on your desk the night before it's supposed to be signed, it's 1,000 pages long. It's like, well, wait a minute. What are we, what are we voting on here? What are we signing up for here? Well, like Nancy Pelosi said, you have to pass the bill and before you can read it and understand it. No, how about we read and understand the bill before we pass it? But this is the way the Democrats and a lot of these rhino Republicans, these traitorous Republicans, like to do things. Let's just fill everything with a lot of pork. And you know what? And pun intended, it's funny that we use that phrase, that they fill these bills with a lot of pork, considering the fact that a lot of these monies are going to the Muslim community. I mean, you can't make it up. But if this was supposed to be just for one organization, how did it merge into two? Okay? And this goes all the way back to October of 2023. Who was president back then? Oh yeah, that's right. Joe Biden. As a matter of fact, and then after that, they're being investigated, but they're only showing this part. On the onset, on October 27, 2023, there were two funds, the Victims and Families Fund and the Border Recovery and Organizations Fund. Communication to recipients of the Victims and Families Fund regarding contributions referred to that fund only. My thing is this, when the original fund, okay, was made, Was all this extra information put into it where people read it and say, okay, you know what? There's going to be two different funds? Something tells me no. Something tells me this was something that was either hidden or put very small into the fine print. So like that, when it was signed off on, they were like, but wait a minute, you signed off on it, but we didn't know about that. Well, you just didn't read the fine print. You see what I'm saying? They just couldn't leave it one and done. Let's just make this program only for the victims. No, they're going to go and try to, now they're going to try to, what do you say? They're gonna try to swindle this into, you know, something that people should have known about because it was always there, and come out and say, well, you know what? There was always two funds, and you know what? And if that's the case, okay, fine. If there was two funds, fine. But it still doesn't explain why was money taken out of one fund. Okay, they were supposed to go just to one group of people, victims, and yet it was allocated and given to who? Another community in another state. Again, the community that's being investigated, the Somali community. This is why I say round them all up and send them all back to Somalia. Because it just seems like they're all getting a piece of the pie.
Nobody knew. Nobody knew that the funds were going to be spread to nonprofits.
People got on that website because they were responding to people being shot, not because they were responding to a community that has nonprofits with needs.
There's a lot of people in the broader community that are outraged because they're like, no, we sent our money to the victims. Where did it go?
Major difference is in Minnesota, they're stealing from the taxpayers. In Maine, they're stealing from the taxpayers and victims of a massacre.
It's disgusting, people. It truly is disgusting, man.
Sussman says she has reached out to Maine Governor Janet Mills 14 times, and she has not yet heard from Governor Janet Mills. She says she's also working with an organization, Victims First, to try and advance legislation on a national level so that nonprofits cannot profit from shootings. Elizabeth?
First of all, this is the way I see it. For them to reach out to Janet Mills 14 times and she doesn't respond, it is not surprising. I mean, that's the governor that President Trump basically called out when he was having that big roundtable meeting at the White House, and she basically tried to get in, try to tell him off in front of everybody, saying that she wasn't going to cooperate. And President Trump said, "Yeah, we'll see how long that is." And people said, "Oh, he was rude for doing that." He was rude for doing that, but yes, the governor, who should be overseeing all of this, okay, knows about what's going on, doesn't say nothing. She's being contacted 14 times and she will not respond. Yes, the president was, rightly so, well within his rights to go and put her on blast, put her on the spot in front of everybody. In other words, if you're not going to beat them in court, then you might as well shame them. Plain and simple. And that's what needs to happen to the people in charge, especially in the Democrat Party. You want to play these games? Okay? You want to swindle people? You want to be all cheeky and make it seem like, you know what, I can get away with anything? Well, now it's time for you to be put on blast. Now it's time for everybody to find out what exactly is going on. And this is something that the Democrats are seething against. This is why they keep pulling the race card and keep pulling the saying that, oh, you know what? You're just mad because they're illegal immigrants. They're brown skinned. They're Muslim. They're this. Well, you know what? Yeah, you're right. It's all of the above. Okay? Because they're illegal immigrant, brown skinned Muslims, whatever you want to call them, that are coming from other countries. And it's not just them entirely either. It's also other illegal immigrants coming from other different countries, whether you're Latino or Chinese, whatever the case is, that are coming into this country, committing fraud, committing crimes, and you Democrats want to make it seem like this has everything to do with race. No, it does not have anything to do with race. It has to do with evil, wicked, corruption, crime. That's what it has to do with. And you Democrats keep covering it up. And then the ones on your side that speak out against it, you vilify them. And it just goes on and on and on. And right now, in all honesty, the same way that Biden went and hired, what was it? He took, what was it, $80 billion or whatever it was, $81 billion to hire 75,000 new IRS agents. I think that now it's about time, and I think it's going to happen. But I think President Trump needs to hire about, I don't know, 75 to 100,000 more agents, so they can just all go out en masse and start investigating all these programs, all these communities. And they definitely need to get into Michigan, okay? Because it seems like, I thought it was just Michigan and Minnesota, but it seems like it's in Maine too. They might as well just go and investigate all these Muslim communities, in all honesty. I don't care what anybody says. I truly don't care what anybody says. Okay? And we need to see people arrested. And when I mean people, of course, on the low end, because it seems like that they're using the majority of those people to commit these crimes, but we're talking big names. We need to see the higher ups in handcuffs. Damn the politics, okay, in Washington. Get rid of people like Ilhan Omar. All these Muslims that are in political power, they need to be investigated. And in all honesty, they just need to stop letting these Muslims hold political power. Be it a governor, a mayor, in charge of some city council or program or a company. No, we can't have it anymore, man. Because it just seems like it's nonstop. But I do thank God with all my heart that, you know what, it's been uncovered. Now we need to start seeing people go to prison. People need to be held accountable. Victims need to be taken care of. And if the Democrats don't like it, listen, that's your problem, not mine, not anybody else's. If you don't like it, that's your problem. You're part of the problem. That is your problem, plain and simple. But anyway, that's what I got for you. Don't forget to comment, like, share, subscribe, pass the channel around. And if you can help support the channel, there's a link in my description to my Cash App and my merch store. So remember, people, stay vigilant. Keep praying for each other. Keep praying for the women and the children. Pray for this country. Pray for your enemies. Pray for President Trump. And don't forget to pray for all the missing children that they brought across the border. Peace.